Also on the front of The Australian is a great exclusive by Indigenous Affairs correspondent Paige Taylor. Indigenous elders are saying that the passing of the buck has to stop. Australia's roadmap for reducing Indigenous disadvantage is at risk because all governments are buck passing over housing and reluctance to cede control to Aboriginal organisations. Closing the gap, co-chair Pat Turner says. Ollie, I've got a feeling that this could potentially be a massive election issue, given that the Indigenous Affairs Minister, Ken White, sits in what is now firming up to be a pretty marginal seat of Hasluck in WA. What do you think the government's response to this tomorrow will be?
I think they need to act, Jenna. I think they need to come out with a forthright plan to address this issue, which has been a bugbear not just of the Morrison government but previous Labor governments as well. The time is now. I know that there's a lot on the agenda of the federal government at the moment and the opposition when it comes to promises with the federal election just around the corner, but this is something that cannot be ignored. You've got to walk and chew gum at the same time. You've got to be multifaceted and you've got to make sure that you've got an approach to appeal to all Australians. So I don't think that they'll sign off on this tomorrow though, Jenna, but there has to be at least some understanding and some scope about where they're going and what their plans would be and some firm commitment which has to be set in stone. I think that the time for talk with these sorts of things, Jenna, and the promises that are never ending, but there's no action. Yeah. Well, we need to start to see a little bit of action, right?
Totally. And I think what really gets my goat is that we're talking about the lead into the federal budget, which will obviously lead into many of the federal campaign platforms as well. And you talk about the one big theme will be the cost of living. Why are we not talking about the cost of living for all Australians, specifically those in Indigenous communities and remote communities, because they don't even have houses, some of them. So if we could all just maybe put that all under the one umbrella and address everyone as equal, maybe that could help ease the burden on everyone involved in these horrific, when they're called out like this, it's just horrible.